The phone ping at 2:47 a.m. should have been my first clue, but I was too damn tired to think straight. 48 hours of back-to-back shifts as a paramedic in this godforsaken Maine city had left me running on fumes and spite. I dragged myself through the front door of our cramped two-bedroom apartment, expecting to find Riley asleep like any normal wife would be at this ungodly hour. Instead, I found her sitting up in bed, fully made up like she was heading to some fancy photo shoot. Her blonde hair was perfectly curled, her makeup flawless, and she was wearing that little black dress I'd bought her for our anniversary, at 3 a.m, on a Tuesday. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. "Hey babe," she said, without looking up from her phone, her fingers dancing across the screen. "How was work?" "Same old circus," I muttered, kicking off my boots. "Car accident on Route 1, overdose downtown, and some drunk college kid who thought he could fly off the pier." Riley made a non-committal humming sound, still glued to her phone. Another ping, and I caught the flash of a smile across her face. Not the kind of smile she gave me anymore. This was something else entirely. I headed to the bathroom to wash the night's chaos off my hands when I heard her voice through the thin walls, hushed but not quite whispered. "Trust me, babe. Derek's so much more fun than Caleb. He's all muscle, no brains, and his car is... Oh my God. You'd literally die. A Maserati. Can you believe it?" I froze, my hands still under the running water. Derek. I knew that name. Derek Morrison, the real estate developer who'd been sniffing around the downtown renovation project. I'd met him once at some charity thing Riley dragged me to. "I mean, Caleb's sweet and all," Riley continued, her voice carrying that fake sympathy she used when talking about stray dogs. "But he's just so... ordinary. Derek makes me feel alive, you know? Like I'm actually worth something." The water kept running, but I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't process what I was hearing. Plus, Derek's helping me with my influencer stuff. He says I could be huge if I just had the right backing. Not like Caleb, who thinks my fashion blog is a waste of time. I turned off the water and stood there, staring at my reflection in the mirror. 32 years old, brown hair that needed a cut, tired eyes that had seen too much. Ordinary. That's what I was to my own wife. When I came out of the bathroom, Riley was off the phone, pretending to be asleep. But I could see the glow of her phone under the covers, could hear the soft tapping of her fingers on the screen. I climbed into bed beside her, my mind racing. 5 years of marriage, and this is what it had come to. Me working my ass off to keep us afloat while she played dress-up and screwed around with some rich pretty boy. The next morning, Riley was gone before I woke up. Left a note on the kitchen counter. "Meeting with potential sponsors today. Don't wait up. Might be late. XOXO." I crumpled the note and tossed it in the trash. Sponsors, my ass. I was supposed to have the day off, but I couldn't sit still. Instead, I drove downtown to Murphy's boxing gym, a grimy little place tucked between a pawn shop and a Chinese restaurant that had seen better decades. The owner, Tommy Murphy, was a former heavyweight who'd taken too many hits to the head but still knew how to teach a man to throw a punch. "You look like hell, Caleb," Tommy said as I wrapped my hands. "Rough night?" "Something like that." I spent 2 hours pounding the heavy bag until my knuckles bled through the wraps. Every punch was Derek's face. Every combination was the conversation I should have had with Riley. By the time I was done, my shoulders screamed and my lungs burned, but my head was clearer. That's when Joey Martinez, my partner at the EMS station, walked in. Joey was one of those guys who always seemed to know everything that was happening in town before it actually happened. Came with the territory of being a paramedic. You saw people at their worst, heard their secrets, became part of the invisible network that kept a small city's gossip mill running. "Caleb, man, we need to talk," Joey said, his face serious. He pulled out his phone and showed me a screenshot of a text message. "Someone sent me this. Thought you should see it." The message was from a number I didn't recognize, but the photo attached made me freeze. It was a picture of me, naked from the waist up, taken in our bedroom. I remembered Riley taking it a few months ago, said she wanted something to look at when I was working nights. Below the photo was a group chat conversation, Riley style guru. "OMG girls, look what I'm stuck with." Becky fashionista, "Girl, no, is that your husband?" Riley style guru, "Unfortunately, yes. Can you believe I have to pretend this is attractive? Thank God for Derek." Sarah influencer, "You're so bad, but honestly, upgrade much?" Riley style guru, "Derek's got a body like a Greek god, and the money to match. Caleb's just there." The conversation continued, but I couldn't read anymore. My hands were shaking with rage. "There's more," Joey said quietly. "This is making the rounds. Half the department's seen it by now." I looked up at him, seeing the pity in his eyes. The same look I'd seen on the faces of family members when I had to tell them their loved one didn't make it. "How long have you known?" I asked. Joey shifted uncomfortably. "About the affair? Couple weeks. About the photos? Just got them this morning." I handed him back his phone and turned toward the locker room. I needed to get out of here, needed to think, needed to figure out what the hell I was going to do with my life now that it had completely imploded. "Caleb," Joey called after me. "For what it's worth, man, she's an idiot. You deserve better than this." I didn't answer, couldn't answer. Because the truth was, I wasn't sure I deserved anything at all. I didn't go home that night, or the next. Instead, I picked up extra shifts at the station, throwing myself into work like it could somehow drown out the sound of Riley's voice saying I was ordinary, just there, something to be endured. Word travels fast in a small city, especially when you work in emergency services. By the end of the week, I could see it in everyone's eyes, the sideways glances, the whispered conversations that stopped when I walked into a room, the careful way people asked how I was doing. I was the cuckolded paramedic, the guy whose wife was banging the rich developer while sharing his naked pictures with her influencer friends. In a city of 60,000 people, that kind of humiliation had staying power. Riley, meanwhile, was playing the part of the loving wife to perfection. She'd started leaving little notes in my lunch, texting me sweet messages during my shifts, even showed up at the station once with homemade cookies for the crew, all while continuing her late-night sponsor meetings with Derek. The breaking point came on a Thursday night. I was grabbing coffee at the 24-hour diner on Oak Street when I overheard two nurses from the hospital talking in the booth behind me. "I feel bad for him, you know," one of them said. "Caleb seems like such a nice guy." "Nice guys finish last," the other replied. "Did you see Riley's latest Instagram post? She's at some fancy restaurant downtown, wearing a dress that probably costs more than I make in a month. Meanwhile, her husband's working double shifts to pay their rent." Someone should tell him. "Honey, everyone knows. He's got to know too. Question is, what's he going to do about it?" That was the question, wasn't it? What was I going to do about it? I found out 2 days later when Riley made her biggest mistake yet. I was at home, trying to catch a few hours of sleep before my next shift, when Riley's phone started buzzing on the nightstand. She was in the shower, and the notifications kept coming, one after another. Normally, I wouldn't have looked. Despite everything, I still had some sense of privacy boundaries. But the phone was face up, and I could see the preview of the messages coming in. They were from her influencer group chat, the same one where she'd shared my photo. Becky fashionista. "Girl, are you insane?" Sarah influencer. "Take it down now." Riley. Style guru. "Why? It's hilarious." Becky fashionista. "This isn't funny anymore. You could get in serious trouble." I grabbed the phone and scrolled up to see what they were talking about. What I found made my vision go red. Riley had posted another photo of me, this one taken while I was asleep, completely naked, with the caption, "When your husband's more useful as a cautionary tale than a lover, ladies don't settle. Upgrade your life, Chuck Derek does it better." The post had been shared to her public Instagram story, visible to her 12,000 followers. My naked, sleeping body was out there for the entire internet to see, tagged with hashtags mocking our marriage. I screenshotted everything, every message, every photo, every cruel comment. Then I did something Riley never expected me to do. I fought back. I'd done some research after Joey showed me those first messages. Turns out, sharing intimate images of someone without their consent is a crime in Maine. It's called revenge porn, and it carries serious penalties. More importantly, it gives the victim grounds for a civil lawsuit. I called in sick to work and spent the day at the office of Jennifer Walsh, a cyber law attorney who specialized in exactly this kind of case. She was a sharp woman in her 40s who listened to my story with the detached professionalism of someone who'd seen it all before. "This is pretty clear-cut," she said after reviewing the evidence. "Your wife violated Maine's revenge porn statute, and the fact that she monetizes her social media presence means we can go after her for damages. The question is, how far do you want to take this?" "As far as the law allows," I said without hesitation. Within 24 hours, Jennifer had filed a complaint with the state attorney general's office and sent cease and desist letters to Riley and every person who had shared or commented on the images. She also filed a civil lawsuit seeking damages for emotional distress, loss of reputation, and violation of privacy. But the real genius was in the details. See, when you file a lawsuit like this, you get to subpoena records. Phone records, social media accounts, financial documents, everything. And when those subpoenas started landing on Riley's influencer friends, their tune changed real quick. Suddenly, Becky Fashionista and Sarah Influencer weren't so eager to be associated with Riley's little revenge campaign. They hired their own lawyers, started cooperating with the investigation, provided screenshots of every conversation where Riley had shared my images or talked about her affair. Riley's carefully constructed influencer empire began crumbling overnight. Sponsors started pulling out, followers began unfollowing in droves, and her friends in the influencer community distanced themselves faster than you could say lawsuit. The final blow came when Jennifer discovered that Riley had been using her platform to promote Derek's real estate investments without disclosing their relationship, a violation of FTC guidelines that could result in federal fines. 3 weeks after I'd filed the lawsuit, Riley came home to find me sitting at the kitchen table with a stack of legal documents. "What is this?" she asked, her voice shaky as she read the papers. "Your reality check," I said calmly. "You're being sued for revenge porn, investigated by the FTC for undisclosed sponsored content, and facing criminal charges for violation of privacy. Your little influencer career is over, and Derek's business partners are asking some very uncomfortable questions about his relationship with you." Riley's face went white. "Caleb, I can explain—" "No need," I interrupted. "Your lawyer can explain it to my lawyer." "Oh, and Riley?" "I'm filing for divorce. You'll be hearing from Jennifer about that too." She started crying then, big crocodile tears that might have worked on me a month ago. But I was done being the nice guy, done being ordinary, done being the fool who let his wife walk all over him while she screwed around with her rich boyfriend. "Please," she sobbed. "I made a mistake. I was stupid. I love you, Caleb. I've always loved you." I stood up from the table and looked down at her. Funny way of showing it. Sharing naked pictures of me with the internet while you're banging Derek Morrison. Real loving behavior there, Riley. "How did you know about Derek?" I smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. "Honey, I'm a paramedic. I know everything that happens in this city. The question is, what else don't I know? What other secrets are you keeping?" The look of panic that flashed across her face told me everything I needed to know. There was more. There was always more. But that was a problem for tomorrow. Tonight, I had a shift to work, and for the first time in weeks, I was looking forward to it. Because now, I wasn't just the cuckolded paramedic anymore. Now, I was the guy who fought back. The lawsuit hit Riley's world like a meteor strike. Within days, her Instagram followers dropped from 12,000 to 3,000. Her YouTube channel got demonetized. Brand partnerships that had taken her months to build evaporated overnight when companies realized they'd been working with someone under federal investigation for undisclosed advertising violations. But the real damage was social. In a community built on image and influence, being labeled a revenge porn perpetrator was career suicide. The same influencer friends who'd laughed at my naked photos were now posting carefully worded statements about not supporting harmful behavior and standing with victims of image-based abuse. Riley tried to salvage what she could, posting teary-eyed apology videos and claiming she'd been hacked or misunderstood. Nobody bought it. Jennifer had made sure the evidence was airtight and public record. Meanwhile, I was discovering something interesting about myself. I was good at revenge. Maybe it was all those years of staying calm under pressure as a paramedic, or maybe I'd just been pushed too far, but I found I had a talent for methodical, legal, devastating payback. The first thing I did was start documenting everything. Riley's schedule, Derek's movements, their public appearances together. I wasn't stalking. Everything I recorded was visible from public spaces or posted on social media. But I was building a timeline, creating a record of their affair that would be useful in divorce proceedings. That's how I discovered Derek's weakness. See, Derek Morrison wasn't just some rich playboy. He was a real estate developer with serious business interests, city contracts, and a reputation to maintain. His company, Morrison Development, was in the middle of several major projects, including a controversial downtown renovation that required city council approval. And Derek had been using Riley to gather inside information. I figured it out when I was going through our old conversations, looking for evidence of the affair's timeline. Riley had been asking me a lot of questions lately about my work. Which neighborhoods saw the most emergency calls, which areas were getting worse, where the city was planning new infrastructure. At the time, I'd thought she was just showing interest in my job. Turns out, she was passing everything I told her straight to Derek, who was using the information to identify distressed properties he could buy cheap before the city announced redevelopment plans. It was insider trading, real estate style, and it was about to blow up in both their faces. I spent my off hours at the city planning office, reviewing public records and development applications. Everything was there if you knew how to look. Derek's company had purchased 17 properties in the downtown area over the past 6 months, all in locations that coincidentally happened to be on the city's confidential redevelopment list, the same list that included information from emergency services reports. My reports. Jennifer was impressed when I brought her the evidence. This is good, Caleb. Really good. We can add conspiracy and fraud to the civil suit, and I know a reporter at the Portland Press-Herald who'd be very interested in this story. Not yet, I said. I want to handle Derek personally first. She raised an eyebrow. What do you have in mind? Nothing illegal. Just a conversation between two men about respect and consequences. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. Derek was hosting a party at his lakeside retreat, some kind of networking event for local business leaders and city officials. Riley was there, of course, playing hostess like she belonged in that world. I wasn't invited, but I didn't need to be. The lake was public property, and Derek's house was visible from the water, so I borrowed a kayak from a friend and paddled out to get a closer look at what my wife's new life looked like. What I saw made me freeze. Riley was wearing a dress that cost more than my monthly salary, jewelry I'd never seen before, and she was hanging all over Derek like he was some kind of prize. She was laughing at his jokes, touching his arm, playing the perfect girlfriend for his business associates, and she was good at it, better than she'd ever been with me. I paddled closer, staying in the shadows near the dock. The party was loud, full of self-important people talking about money and influence. I could hear Derek holding court on the deck, telling some story about his latest development project. The key, he was saying, is having the right information at the right time. You need to know where the problems are before anyone else does. Emergency services data, crime statistics, infrastructure reports, that's how you identify opportunities. One of his guests asked how he got access to that kind of information. Derek smiled and pulled Riley closer. Let's just say I have excellent sources. My girlfriend here has connections throughout the city. She knows how to get people talking. Riley giggled and kissed his cheek. Derek's so smart. He sees opportunities where other people just see problems. I'd heard enough. I paddled back to shore and drove home, my mind working through possibilities. Derek thought he was untouchable, protected by his money and connections. Riley thought she'd traded up, found herself a better life with a better man. They were both about to learn how wrong they were. The next morning, I called in another favor. My friend Mike worked for the city's IT department, and he owed me for the time I'd saved his kid's life during a severe allergic reaction. Nothing illegal, just a request to review the access logs for the city's emergency services database. What Mike found was interesting. Someone had been accessing restricted reports from outside the department, using login credentials that traced back to a city council member's account. The same city council member who'd been at Derek's party the night before. "This is bad, Caleb," Mike said. "If someone's been selling access to confidential city data, there's going to be a federal investigation. The FBI takes this stuff seriously." "I know," I said. "That's exactly what I'm counting on." I spent the rest of the week putting together a comprehensive report. Every property Derek had purchased, every piece of inside information Riley had passed along, every city official who'd attended his parties. I cross-referenced emergency calls with property sales, matched dates and times, built a case that would make a federal prosecutor salivate. Then, I sent it all to the FBI's white-collar crime division, along with copies to the Portland Press-Herald, the state attorney general's office, and the city's ethics board. And then I waited. The first domino fell on a Tuesday morning. FBI agents showed up at Derek's office with search warrants, seizing computers and financial records. By noon, the story was breaking on local news. Local developer under federal investigation for corruption. The second domino was Derek's business partners, who immediately distanced themselves from Morrison Development and froze all joint projects. The city council voted to suspend all pending contracts with Derek's company pending the outcome of the investigation. The third domino was Riley. She called me that afternoon, hysterical. "Caleb, you have to help me. The FBI wants to interview me. They're asking about Derek, about information I might have given him. I don't know what to do." "Get a lawyer," I said calmly. "A good one. You're going to need it." "Please," she sobbed. "I know I hurt you. But I never meant for any of this to happen. I love you. I want to come home." I looked around our empty apartment, at the pictures of us that I hadn't taken down yet, at the life we'd built together before she decided I wasn't good enough anymore. "Riley," I said, "you made your choice. Now you get to live with the consequences. Don't call me again unless it's through your lawyer." I hung up and poured myself a drink. Outside it was starting to rain, the kind of cold autumn drizzle that made Maine winters feel like they lasted forever. But for the first time in months, I was warm. The FBI investigation moved faster than I'd expected. Within 2 weeks, Derek Morrison went from small city big shot to federal defendant. The charges were impressive: conspiracy to commit fraud, bribery of public officials, and violation of federal insider trading laws. Turns out, using confidential city data to manipulate real estate prices was the kind of thing that got you 20 years in federal prison. Riley wasn't charged criminally, yet, But she was named as a cooperating witness, which meant her involvement was public record. The local news ran the story with her Instagram photo, right next to Derek's mugshot. Influencer girlfriend linked to federal corruption case. What was left of her online presence evaporated overnight. But I wasn't done. Not even close. See, the thing about being a paramedic is that you learn to think systematically. When someone's dying, you don't just treat the obvious injury, you look for everything that's wrong and fix it all. Riley and Derek had hurt me in ways that went beyond just the affair, and I was going to address every single wound. The revenge porn lawsuit was proceeding nicely. Jennifer had documented damages of over $200,000, lost income from the humiliation, therapy costs, punitive damages for the deliberate cruelty of Riley's actions. Riley's lawyer was already talking settlement, but I wasn't interested in money. I wanted something much more valuable: complete social destruction. The opportunity came when Riley's remaining influencer friends decided to throw her a support party at Sarah's downtown loft. It was supposed to be a private gathering, a chance for Riley to rebuild her image among the few people who still associated with her. I found out about it the same way I'd been tracking everything else: social media. These people couldn't help but document every moment of their lives, even when they were trying to be discreet. The party was on a Saturday night. I wasn't invited, obviously, but the building's lobby was public space, and I had every right to be there. So I showed up in my paramedic uniform. I'd just finished a shift, carrying a large manila envelope. The doorman recognized me. "Hey, Caleb, you here for the party upstairs?" "Something like that," I said. "Mind if I use your phone? I need to call for backup." What I actually did was call Joey and ask him to meet me outside with his phone and a good camera. Then I went upstairs and knocked on Sarah's door. Riley answered, and the look on her face when she saw me was worth everything I'd been through. "Caleb? What are you doing here?" "Delivering some documents," I said, holding up the envelope. "Thought you and your friends might want to see them." The party behind her had gone quiet. I could see Sarah, Becky, and about a dozen other people staring at us from the living room. Perfect. "Can we do this privately?" Riley asked. "No," I said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "I think your friends deserve to know what kind of person they're supporting." I opened the envelope and pulled out a stack of printed screenshots, every message from their group chat, every cruel comment about me, every time they'd shared or laughed at my naked photos. But more importantly, I had screenshots of their private conversations about their own illegal activities: tax evasion, undisclosed sponsorships, fake follower purchases, fraudulent engagement metrics. "Ladies," I announced to the room, "meet the real Riley Morrison." Oh wait, that's not her name yet, is it? Hard to keep track when your boyfriend's facing federal charges. Riley's face went white. "You can't." "Actually, I can," I interrupted. "See, when you file a lawsuit for revenge porn, you get access to a lot of interesting information. Phone records, social media data, financial transactions. Amazing what people will say when they think nobody's watching." I started reading from the screenshots, loud enough for everyone in the room to hear. Messages where Riley called her friends stupid bitches behind their backs. Conversations where she bragged about manipulating brands for free products she never disclosed. Plans to create fake engagement to boost her follower count. But the best part was the messages about Derek's business dealings, where Riley had explicitly discussed using inside information to help him identify properties to buy. Written evidence of conspiracy to commit fraud sent to a group chat full of witnesses. "The FBI is going to love these," I said cheerfully, "especially since some of you were involved in the property schemes too. Did you know that accepting payment for promoting investments without proper disclosure is a federal crime? Because Derek's been paying several of you to promote his developments on social media." The room erupted. People started shouting, demanding to know if what I was saying was true, pulling out their phones to delete evidence that was already too late to hide. Sarah was screaming at Riley to get out of her apartment. Becky was crying and calling her lawyer, and Riley was standing in the middle of it all, watching her last remaining friendships disintegrate in real time. "You bastard," she whispered. "You've destroyed everything." "No," I said calmly. "You destroyed everything. I just made sure everyone could see it." I turned to leave, then stopped and looked back at the room full of panicking influencers. "Oh, and ladies, you might want to check your email. I sent copies of everything to the IRS, the FTC, and the State Attorney General's office. Have a nice evening." I walked out to find Joey waiting in the lobby with his phone out, having recorded everything through the open door. The video would be online within hours, spreading through the local social media scene like wildfire. "Jesus, Caleb," Joey said as we walked to our cars. "Remind me never to piss you off." I smiled and got into my truck. "Don't cheat on your wife and share naked pictures of me, and we'll be fine." As I drove home, I could see the police cars arriving at Sarah's building. Probably noise complaints from the neighbors, but it would make for interesting photos when the local news picked up the story tomorrow. Riley called me 6 times that night. I didn't answer. Her voicemails started angry, then became pleading, then dissolved into incoherent sobbing. By the last one, she was begging me to stop, promising she'd do anything to make it right. But it was too late for that. The wheels were already in motion, and I was just getting started. Because tomorrow was the annual fall festival downtown, where the whole city came out to celebrate the season. And I had one more surprise planned for my dear wife and her boyfriend, assuming Derek made bail in time to attend. The fall festival was perfect. Clear October sky, the kind of crisp air that made you glad to be alive, and half the city packed into downtown for food trucks, craft booths, and live entertainment. I'd been coming to this festival for years, back when Riley and I were happy, back when I thought we had a future together. This year, I was here for a different kind of celebration. Derek had made bail, as expected. His lawyer had probably advised him to keep a low profile, but Derek's ego wouldn't let him hide. He showed up to the festival like nothing had happened, wearing an expensive suit and glad-handing anyone who would still talk to him. Riley was conspicuously absent, smart move on her part. I'd spent the morning setting up my own booth. Technically, it was an EMS information table, part of the city's public safety outreach. I'd volunteered to run it, and my supervisor had been happy to let me handle the community relations. What he didn't know was that I had my own agenda for the day. The booth was positioned perfectly, right in the main thoroughfare where everyone would have to walk past it, with a clear view of the festival stage. I'd brought all the usual pamphlets about emergency preparedness and CPR training, but I'd also brought something else, a laptop connected to a portable projector, ostensibly for showing safety videos. Joey was helping me run the booth, along with 2 other paramedics who'd volunteered for the day. They didn't know what I had planned, but they'd all seen Riley's revenge porn posts, and they weren't feeling particularly sympathetic toward her. Around noon, Derek made his move. He'd been working the crowd all morning, trying to drum up support and maintain his business relationships despite the federal charges. Now he was approaching my booth with 2 of his remaining business associates, probably planning to make some kind of public show of normalcy. "Caleb," he said as he walked up, extending his hand with that fake politician smile. "Good to see you out here supporting the community." I looked at his outstretched hand but didn't take it. "Derek, surprised to see you here. Don't you have a court date coming up?" His smile faltered slightly. "Just a misunderstanding. My lawyers will have it sorted out soon." "I'm sure they will," I said. "Must be expensive, though. Federal defense attorneys don't come cheap. Hope you've got enough assets left to pay them." One of his associates shifted uncomfortably. Word was already spreading through Derek's business network that several of his properties were being seized as evidence, and his bank accounts were frozen pending the investigation. "Actually," I continued, "since you're here, maybe you could help me with something. I'm putting together a presentation about the dangers of sharing personal information. You know, identity theft, privacy violations, that sort of thing. Mind if I use you and Riley as a case study? Derek's face went red. You son of a… Now, I interrupted. We're at a family festival. Let's keep it civil. I turned to the laptop and opened a PowerPoint presentation I'd prepared. The first slide read, Protecting Your Privacy in the Digital Age, a Cautionary Tale. You see, I said, speaking loudly enough to draw attention from nearby festival goers, my wife recently made the mistake of sharing some very personal photos without permission. It's a growing problem in our digital world. I clicked to the next slide, which showed a screenshot of Riley's Instagram post with my naked photo, carefully censored, but still clearly recognizable. A small crowd was starting to gather around the booth. Derek stepped forward. Turn that off, right now. But we're just getting to the good part, I said, clicking to the next slide. See, what my wife didn't realize is that when you commit crimes on social media, you leave a digital trail. Every message, every photo, every conspiracy to commit fraud, it's all recorded. The next slide showed a timeline of Derek and Riley's relationship, cross-referenced with Derek's property purchases and the confidential city data he'd used to make them. I'd turned it into an infographic, clean and professional-looking, the kind of thing you might see in a federal prosecutor's presentation. The lesson here, I continued to the growing crowd, is that actions have consequences. When you betray someone's trust, when you break the law, when you think you're smarter than everyone else, eventually it catches up to you. Derek lunged for the laptop, but Joey stepped in his way. I wouldn't do that, buddy. Assaulting a city employee at a public event? That's another felony charge you probably can't afford. The crowd was getting bigger now, people pulling out their phones to record the confrontation. I could see the local news crew setting up their camera nearby. They'd been covering the festival, but this was turning into a much better story. Ladies and gentlemen, I announced, I'd like you to meet Derek Morrison, currently under federal investigation for corruption and fraud. And this whole mess started because he seduced my wife and convinced her to share confidential city information with him. Oh, and she also shared naked pictures of me with her social media followers, which is why I'm now suing her for $200,000. The crowd murmured and pressed closer. Derek looked around frantically, realizing he was trapped. His business associates had already melted away, not wanting to be associated with the spectacle. You're insane, Derek said. This is harassment. No, I replied calmly. This is public education. Everything I'm showing here is part of the public record. Court documents, FBI press releases, social media posts that your girlfriend made public. I'm just putting it all together in one convenient presentation. I clicked to the final slide. Remember, your reputation is your most valuable asset. Don't let someone else destroy it. The crowd applauded. Someone shouted, Good for you, man! Another person yelled, Lock him up! Derek tried to push through the crowd, but people weren't moving aside for him anymore. The man who'd been the king of the local business scene just 2 months ago was now a pariah, and everyone could see it. As he finally broke free and stalked away, I heard someone behind me say, That's the guy whose girlfriend posted revenge porn? What a piece of trash. The local news reporter approached my booth with her cameraman. Excuse me, are you Caleb Williams? Could we get an interview about what just happened here? Sure, I said. I think it's important for people to understand the real cost of betrayal and corruption in our community. The interview went perfectly. I came across as calm, reasonable, and sympathetic, the wronged husband who'd fought back through legal channels and public accountability. The reporter ate it up, especially when I showed her the documentation of Derek's crimes and Riley's revenge porn campaign. That evening, the story led the local news. Paramedic exposes wife's affair and corruption scheme at Fall Festival. The video of Derek's humiliation went viral on local social media, and by morning it had been picked up by regional news outlets. Riley called me that night, sobbing hysterically. Please stop, she begged. I can't take any more. I've lost everything. My friends, my career, my reputation, it's all gone. Good, I said simply. I'm sorry, she cried. I'm so sorry. I know I hurt you, but please, I'm begging you to stop destroying my life. Riley, I said, I want you to understand something. You didn't just cheat on me. You humiliated me publicly, shared my naked body with strangers for laughs, helped a criminal steal from our city, and then tried to play victim when you got caught. You destroyed your own life. I just made sure everyone could see what you really are. What do you want from me? She whispered. Nothing, I said. I don't want anything from you ever again. Sign the divorce papers, pay the settlement for the revenge porn lawsuit, and stay out of my life. If you're very lucky, maybe someday people will forget what you did. But I never will. I hung up and blocked her number. 3 days later, her lawyer called to accept the full settlement offer and expedite the divorce proceedings. Derek's trial was still months away, but his business was finished. The FBI had seized most of his assets, his partners had dissolved their relationships with him, and the city had blacklisted his company from all future contracts. Last I heard, he was working as a sales associate at a car dealership in Portland, trying to make enough money to pay his legal bills. Riley moved back in with her parents in Boston, her influencer dreams faded and buried. The last I saw of her was a brief glimpse in a grocery store checkout line, looking tired and ordinary, just another person struggling to get by. As for me, I kept working as a paramedic, kept helping people, kept being the man I'd always been. But I was different now, harder, maybe, but also stronger. I'd learned that being nice doesn't mean being weak, and that sometimes the right thing to do is make sure people face the consequences of their actions. I never remarried, never felt the need to. I had my work, my friends, my life in this small Maine city where everyone now knew my story, where everyone knew that Caleb Williams was not a man you wanted to cross. And every year at the fall festival, people still talked about the day the quiet paramedic brought down the corrupt developer and his revenge porn girlfriend with nothing but the truth and a PowerPoint presentation. It was, they said, the most epic public humiliation in the city's history. I couldn't argue with that assessment.